self-love. Also God's love, because God is love. Rev run, okay? Hey gorgeous, welcome back to my channel, Ashery XO. If you are new here, my name is Francis, and if you're returning, hey boo, hey, okay? I am back with another video. This is more of like a cute little chit chat video. I wanted to sit down and talk to you guys about something very magical, something that I hold near and dear to my heart, something that I express towards myself every day. This is a form of love that is not limited to just February. A personal love, God's love, self-love. In today's video, we are going to discuss self-love. Not only talk about self-love, but also put more of myself on my channel because it is my page at the end of the day. I really want to connect with y'all. I really want to inspire y'all to live your life to the fullest, to love yourself to the fullest. And hey man, this self-love, this is what healed me from a lot of life trauma. This is what makes me smile every day. This is what, you know, wakes me up in the morning and allows me to go to bed at night. Like, self-love is everything. Self-love, like I said, is God's love. We are going to dive into it with this cute little gift box. This is actually, I don't know if I want to call it a game, but it's like a Q&A that you can play with yourself because self-love. But it's from the brand We Are Not Really Strangers, and I have their other card set, which is, I think it's the original We Aren't Really Strangers card set. There is another one for couples, so if you are in a couple, I do recommend you getting that one. This video is not sponsored, but honestly, We Are Not Really Strangers, if you want to hit your girl up, I would live, because the game sets are very much my vibe. This is a game based off of connectivity, and I feel like it inspires a lot of conversations that some people don't have very freely. It's conversations or questions that some people don't necessarily think to ask, whether it's themselves or other people. We're all people in this world, and I know we live individual lives, but it's always nice to connect, and not just on a surface level where it's like, oh, I follow you on Instagram, I follow you on TikTok, I follow you on Instagram, you know, I see you here, so I'm connected to you. No, I'm talking about deep connections on the soul level. To be very honest, these cards are also a form of shadow work. It's also a form of self-reflection, and if you're somebody who doesn't self-reflect or doesn't do the shadow work, unfortunately you'll be stuck. And if you need a guiding tool to do so, self-love girl or guy. Okay, so here is a closer look at the game. It comes in a box like this. It says self-love, come curious, leave connected. You know what I'm saying? And this is the under part. You deserve healthy love from yourself too, okay? Honestly, from yourself first and foremost. This is how the cards look like. It has a 1, 2, and 3. The numbers stand for past, present, and future. So I'm gonna read the little thing because I don't know it off the top of my head. Past, who were you then? The level is about gaining perspective on your past self in order to better understand your current self. Present, who are you now? This level is about looking at your current relationship with yourself and accepting what you see. Future, who will you be? This level is about exploring new ways to be yourself and new ways to love. And what I'm gonna do for this video is I am going to answer 10 questions because honestly, y'all, I don't wanna spend too much time. And plus, I really want y'all to get this game and try it out for yourself. Like, if I really sat here and answered all of these, that's unfair. How are you gonna play? You know what I mean? Like, you need to play too. It needs to be your turn, okay? So we are starting off with level 1. Bing, 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 boop. And then part 2 will be level 2, part 3 will be level 3. So our first question, what about you has remained intact throughout the years? Is my optimism. I've been through a lot. I laugh. Okay.
I need to address something.
I tend to laugh during serious situations. This is not answering the question, but it could still answer the question. During serious situations or talking about very like deep, sensitive-ish topics pertaining to myself, I giggle, I laugh, I mask it in humor, maybe? Is that me reading myself? I do kind of mask it in humor, or just say it in a way where it's very not serious, but it is serious. And it's just my coping mechanism. It's just my way of being able to say it. Also, to me, I know that it's an indicator that the thing doesn't affect me as much. It does still affect me, but it's not where I can't even speak it. If I speak it, I'll start crying. So I want to address that. If I do mention something that is kind of traumatic or like serious and I start to laugh or giggle, just know she's masking. Yeah. I'm low-key masking. I'm low-key bringing light to a heavy situation because my default is positivity. Don't get me wrong, I do get into modes where I'm like doom and gloom. What is life? Why am I going through X, Y, and Z? Boo-hoo, cry about it. But I've noticed that doesn't last very long. There's usually something I have to, pick up my bootstraps and have to do. So one thing that has remained intact with me throughout the years is the fact that I push through. Okay, there's no way out but through. And I journal through it. That really helps me like get my emotion out, is to write it down. But nonetheless, what about me has remained intact through the years is my positivity and my ability to get through tough times. I feel like that's a major thing that my mom has taught me. She's the type of woman who, no matter what she's going through, smile on her face and always willing to help others. Like I've noticed a lot too is like, even if I'm going through stuff, I am still a bit self-sacrificing. I used to be the #1 people pleaser of life. Like I could be down bad. I'll be like, okay, I'll help you out with whatever, or I'll hear about what you're going through and give you the best advice. Will I take the advice for myself? Probably not. But now I've obviously turned over a new leaf and I'm no longer that way. But next question. When has your intuition been right? My intuition is always right. How about that? Okay. I'm a very intuitive person. I may or may not have clear powers, clear agencies, clear abilities. This is something that I've had for a very long time, like even as a kid. I'm assuming that this wants me to give an example. Let's say,
hey love, thanks for picking up. I just wanted to call in real quick to fully answer this question. It's a little tough to give a full example of how it feels or how I get confirmation, because for me, it starts off as a feeling and then later on that feeling can be confirmed by certain signs and symbols that I see either around myself or like through music, or like a random daydream. I'll see a scenario play out and then just get clarity from there. Or it can be something physical like an eye twitch, or I'll get that feeling of having like butterflies in your stomach. And sometimes it's an actual physical feeling that I feel versus an emotional one or something that's like a thought or a premonition. But that's just all how my intuition speaks to me. And an example of that is one time I was going to go out with some friends, and while we were on our way to the bar or club, I forgot what it was. It was either a bar or a club that we were going to. But while we were on our way there, in the car, I had a feeling of like butterflies in my stomach, but not like a good butterflies in my stomach. It was like anxiety. It's the feeling of friction in my core, and it's a feeling that I associate with like being frustrated, with not really having a lot of control, or just, I don't know, a bit of chaos, and also like a warning sign for me that conflict is going to occur. And with this initial physical feeling and emotion, I didn't know if the conflict or what I was feeling was associated with either the people that I was in the car with, or if it was associated with what's going to happen while we're at the place. So a lot of things were going on in my mind, but I just was like, okay, let me just put my feelers up and be extra aware of what plays out while we're at this place. And instead of letting the feeling consume me, I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna have fun, and like I said, just pay extra attention. So when we pulled up to the spot, it was chill. We did our rounds. It was a good vibe in there. They were playing really good music. We were dancing, vibing. It was a good time. Somebody bought us drinks. We were having a ball, to be honest. But then at some point point, we all go to the bathroom, and every girl knows when you go to the bathroom as a group, it's like chit-chat time. We're running the numbers, we're seeing how the vibe is, we're retouching makeup, we're taking pictures, we're hyping up every girl that walks in there. Like, it is a whole thing when you go to the bathroom on a girl's night out, and the way that bathroom break goes can either make or break the night. It led to the beginning of problems. So it was 4 of us during this girl's night out, and I'm not gonna name any names, but let's just say girl number 1 is air, girl number 2 is fire, and girl number 3 is earth, and then there's girl number 4, me, which is me. So either when we were at the pregame or in the car, we had this conversation where air had disclosed to us that she was in communication with this guy that she was really feeling, and she wanted him to pull up to the bar. Like, this is Saturday night, he's in town. She was waiting for him to respond back, but he was being very flaky on the phone, so she was in her feelings a little bit, but we were all trying to like hype her up. Like, this man is not gonna make you feel less than a baddie that you are. So after we're in the bathroom, we were like, you know what, let's do another walk around the bar. Let's, you know, strut our stuff, vibe to the music, like everything's gonna be okay. And let me mention that the person that Air is referring to, I don't know how the person looks like or anything, so this interaction was my first time hearing about him and even seeing him because he ended up coming. But I will add that Earth knew who this person was, not through Air, but just on some that's the homie type stuff. They didn't have any type of like romantic involvement, but she knew who he was from her hometown essentially. And then Air and Fire are really close, so Fire has definitely heard about this person and probably even seen this person because they're like besties for real. So anyways, after our little bathroom break, we all walk out to do our rounds, and we pop out in a line to maneuver through the bar. You know, when y'all hold each other's hand? Yeah, we're in that formation, ladies, and it goes Earth, me, Fire, and then Air. The description of the lineup matters because I promise you, if it was reversed, if it was Air, Fire, me, then Earth, this entire conflict would have been avoided. So just hear me out on the details, chat. It's a piece of the chaos that inevitably ensues, and another sign that confirms the initial feeling I had when we were pulling up to this place. So we begin our march in this formation. DJ is on our side. He is playing all the vibes. We are literally center stage. Like, it was very much a main character moment, and the girls that get it, and the girls that don't, period. So we're walking for a while, and then at some point, the line leader, Earth, stops, and she starts talking to some guy. They're just chopping it up casually, nothing romantic at all. He actually initiated the conversation. She did not initiate the conversation with him. He introduced the girl that he was with. He brought somebody to this place, so he was like, oh, this is so-and-so, and then she proceeded to introduce us. So I'm right behind her, so she's like, this is Francis. I'm like, hey, what's up? Then I turn and look at the other girls while she goes, this is Fire, this is Air. Then after that, she reconvenes with catching up with this guy. I know it's a little bit weird that she would introduce Fire and Air to this guy knowing that he knows them already, but I think she was just trying to play it cool because he don't need to know that we spoke. That's definitely not her tea to tell. But anyways, after she introduces them, she reconvenes with a conversation with him. But I'm still facing Fire and Air because I noticed that they started whispering amongst themselves, and I was like, what's the girl saying? I asked them what's going on, and Fire lets me know that the guy that Earth is talking to is the one that Air had mentioned earlier. Then Fire asked Air why Earth was talking to her man, and that was the start of problems. Air stormed off and threw a fit. She yelled, she said something to Earth, like she was in Earth's face for a little bit, then she stomped off to the bathroom mad. Fire followed Air and I think was trying to calm her down, but honestly, she was kind of riling her up even more. There was a lot of how could she do this, and yeah, I told you about her, like this is what she does, dialogue going on as they were storming off. Then Earth got hella confused and was like, WTF? And I had to break it down to her and be like, they think that you are trying to get at this guy, and this guy is the person who Air was saying she was feeling earlier. Then she explained to me that that's not even the case. She knows this guy from back home. He was just saying what's up, and she also said that he introduced her to the girl he brought to the bar. So then I looked at her like, girl, you're gonna have to go explain that to them because they have convinced themselves of something completely different. So as she's closing out the convo with homeboy, I go to Air and Fire to get like a temperature check, and they're still very much on 10 about this whole situation. Like, they started to get on me for staying over there with Earth instead of storming off with them, and I'm like, how I get into it? And I try to calmly break it down to them that I peep what's going on and it's not what they think. Like, if we can just have a quick conversation about what's really going on and hear Earth out, we can squash it and pick back up with the turn up, okay? But they weren't having it. So once Earth made made her way to us. Air came out the gate with the B words and it went south. Earth came back with more B words and they almost started fighting in the club. Y'all, it felt like the music stopped and everybody was just tuned in to our Zeus of a Network debacle. And eventually we had to leave. The commotion escalated outside. The people inside of the club were looking at them act out outside the club. It got to the point where the girls were almost physical and security had to tell them to move away from the front of the bar. And it was just a lot. I was trying to de-escalate the situation and trying to get them to just talk to each other. The whole altercation went on for like 2 hours and Air kept threatening to take an Uber and just leave and go back to her house. And that would have been fine since we came in Fire's car, but wouldn't have made any sense because her spot was the pregame. But also I drove to her spot for the pregame and I pulled up with Earth. So I'm gonna need access to her garage in order for me to get into my whip and in order for us to end the night officially. So they had to calm down to a point where we can get in the car and just go. But unfortunately, it was 2 hours of like a screaming match before we can even get to that point. But all in all, to answer the self-love question, that was a moment where my intuition was right. I had a feeling about the way the night was gonna go and it turned out that way. It also confirmed some intuitive nudges that I was getting about that friendship group altogether. So overall, my intuition never fails me, and therefore question number 2 is answered. Okay, bye.
What have you grown to love about yourself? I've grown to love everything about myself and accepting myself for my flaws, accepting myself for who I am as an individual, as a person. Like, I am one of one, the only one. I come in a very cute package. And yeah, I'm a kind person. It's not just all physical. I love the way I treat myself. I love the way I treat other people. I lead with love. There was a certain point where I kind of judged myself for leading with love and always giving people the benefit of the doubt and always just heart open, arms open to every and anybody. A bit of desperation. I feel like that's because growing up I moved around a lot, so it was hard for me to keep friendship groups. I didn't start dating until like college, so a bit of it in the beginning was I just wanted that so bad. Like, I wanted like a deep friendship group, or I wanted to be in a loving situation. So in the beginning I was just open arms. I was just like, I love on anybody and everybody's great, and you know, we're all cool. When I got burned a lot of the time, I did start to question that aspect of myself, and I did start to be like, okay, why am I always the one getting the short end of the stick? You know, why am I always opening myself up or being so available to people? And I've grown to love that about me. I have set a lot more boundaries nowadays, and I'm reflecting that love that I would give out to others more towards myself. So that's why I said in the beginning, I've grown to love myself more. Because what have you grown to love about yourself is the way I love myself, okay? The way I love, and then reflecting that love back to me. That's the answer to that. Who did you compare yourself to most often as a teen, and why? I would say the girls who I thought were like the cool girls, like the popular girls, like the girls who were, I don't know, like in all the extracurricular activities, super smart, also getting all the boys, like girls like that. I can't pinpoint it to one person because, like I said, I moved around a lot. So that one person changed depending on like what school I went to or my environment and stuff like that. So I guess, yeah, I used to compare myself most often to that. And I would say as a teen, because in those years, unfortunately, I was the type of person who really cared about outside validation. So what I saw in those girls was like, oh, they're getting very validated. Like, they're getting the grades, they're, you know, they're front and center cheerleading or whatever, you know, in their extracurricular activity. Or I really wanted to be a cheerleader, to be very honest. Or like, you know, like something in dance. I love dance, and I eventually got to do that in college, so I really can't complain. But yeah, I used to compare myself to that type of girl, that girl archetype. During that time, I didn't see myself as that, like the super popular, cool girl, pretty girl, and all that stuff. So people who physically beautiful, also really smart, and were, you know, just validated a lot. These were the girls who got asked to prom. I both years, junior and senior, did not get asked to prom. I went with friends. I just wanted that. I wanted to experience being asked to homecoming, being asked to prom, being asked to be a Valentine. Like, that was the type of girl or the person that I would compare myself to in my teen years. And because, like I said, I did seek a lot of outside validation, but also it feels good to be, I don't want to say wanted, but I don't know, it feels good. It feels good to have a sense of companionship. I feel like a lot of my teen years, I was very solo. I'm like an introvert-extrovert cusp, but I have been a bit of a loner for a while. I guess I wanted to be wanted. Like, I wanted to experience that type of love in the movies, you know. I wanted to be Vanessa Hudgens in High School Musical with my Troy, okay? I've never been asked, will you be my Valentine? I swear, I've never been asked to be anybody's Valentine. You guys, when I tell you the last relationship was trash, it's like he didn't believe in no Valentine, no anniversary, unless I begged or he did something, okay, I needed to make up for it. So yeah. Next question, what is the story of your birth? I don't know too many details, but I do know I was due on my mom's birthday, November 2nd, but as the Scorpio that I am, I said, no, I need my own day. Okay, so I sat in the oven for 4 more days, and I popped out on the 6th of November in 1997. And life changed, you know, the earth shifted. A gift was given to the world. No, I'm kidding. But my mom told me that I was in the womb with my umbilical cord in a knot. So I had made a knot with my umbilical cord, and I had wrapped it around my neck. And that's how I was born. And I don't know if it was like an emergency situation. Like, I don't know if everybody freaked out and was like, oh, like scrambled, but I was very much like, what's up? Cheated death. Like, I was meant to be born. I survived that, you know. I was born fighting battles. That's really what it is. I was born fighting battles. And guess what? I overcame them too, okay? And then I was born with like a big red, I don't know what it was. My mom was like, you had a red birthmark right here. So yeah, that's the story of my birth. I think my dad was working at the hospital that I was born at. So I think my mom said that he was in and out of the room. And yeah, that's all I really remember my mom telling me. Shout out to all the last borns out there, and shout out to the people who were born with an umbilical cord in a knot and around their neck, okay? Next question, what did you feel bad for at the time but are glad you did anyway? Pertaining to my past relationship, coming out of that, I'm just happy for the fact that I have lived through the worst, and I know that my future relationships will never, ever be like that. My future relationship will never be in that past relationship in any way, shape, form, sector. Like, I know my boundaries, you know? I know the red flags. I know what to look out for. I know what to avoid. I know what's the dodgeball, dip, duck, dive. I know what to avoid, essentially, moving forward. And even in the vlog that I talked about it, I was like, I don't hate that person. I'm not mad at that person. I'm like, I learned a lot. It taught me a lot about myself. It taught me about what I don't want. You know what I mean? Like, honestly, I feel like my next relationship can be like the relationship of relationships, the one that ends in marriage. The one that takes me off the market. For real. It helped me grow. So yeah, and also I used to think like, dang, I should have been the one to break up with him because he did me so dirty, I don't care. I feel like it's even sweeter that he's the one that broke up with me and now is probably kicking and screaming at the wall because of how bad he fumbled. I'm pretty sure he's crying and throwing up right now. And that's so sad. Next, What is difficult to forgive yourself for? When I was still early in my healing journey, what I needed to sit down and forgive myself for was the amount of years I spent dealing with the ex-pack. The amount of years I invested in that relationship. That was like the hardest realization, the hardest thing to forgive myself for was, why did you stay so long? Why were you in it so long? Not only why were you in it so long, why when he showed you who he was, why did you keep coming back like it wasn't gonna happen again? You know what I mean? That whole dynamic was what was difficult for me to forgive myself for. But eventually I did. Eventually I was like, no, you know what? Yes, my bad for staying. Yes, I should have known the flags. Yes, I can't just put it on him like he did 1, 2, 3, X, Y, and Z, and you know, I'm victim. No, I played a part in it too. I stayed. I allowed it for 5 years. And so that was a very hard realization. It was a work in progress because I did sometimes lapse and get into zones where it's like, oh, I'll never find it, or does. Like, am I always gonna be this way? And no, like I said, it will never happen again. So yeah. Okay, we have 3 more. How would you have raised yourself? Mom and dad, if you're watching, you guys did the best you could, or are doing the best you can. I don't regret anything. What I will say is, knowing a person like me who is very emotional and very into her emotions and loves deep connection and candid conversations, I feel like how I would have raised myself is with more open communication, more validation, like a lot more validation. I was validated, but let's times that by 5. So I'd validate myself even more, to the point where I wouldn't need to seek it from, you know, outward sources, especially like guys, male attention, the male gaze, if you will. Younger me, ooh, he liked my picture. That, oh my gosh, I would have been like, he likes me. It's weird why I would want that from people my age. That's why I feel like I kind of craved it a lot. But I would unfortunately get it from people a lot older than me, to the point where it's like inappropriate. So I didn't like the inappropriate stuff with like older people, you know, trying to get at me and stuff like that when I'm like literally a teen or like a child. So in my like younger years, I would have rather had that kind of attention from somebody who was my age at the time. So that's why I, you know, that validation. The situations with older people, so I would have protected myself more. And I also would have encouraged myself to explore my talents, so that, you know, it wouldn't have taken me until my senior year of college to finally change my major and completely change the trajectory of my career. I got my degree in communication in 1 year, and then not too long after that got my master's in interior architecture and design. But yeah, I would have encouraged myself to explore. I would loved on myself a lot more, and I would have protected myself as well. When was a time you spoke up for yourself? One time, my mom, she came to America as a teacher. So she was a teacher in Cameroon. And so when we moved to America, she started off teaching, but then eventually went into nursing. And so she had to do the whole nursing thing from square one. And at this time, my brother and I were going to school, like we were in elementary school. And so we would go to her classes with her. And I remember, I think it was chemistry teacher that she had. What college was this? She did courses in Mission College in Santa Clara. She did courses in Foothill College, and then she did courses in Evergreen College, as well as De Anza. I believe this was when she was going to Foothill College. She had a teacher, the chemistry teacher, and the first day she brought us like, oh, these are my kids, like, can they just sit in the back? They're gonna be really quiet. Like, my brother and I didn't really bother, like, we weren't rambunctious, we weren't gonna cause a ruckus, but he was just like, no, he was like, there's no kids allowed, like, da-da-da. Like, she wasn't trying to take us to lab. I think that's where, probably to give him the benefit of the doubt, that's probably where his mind went, like, no, kids aren't allowed in lab, da-da-da. What had to happen was that she'd be inside the lecture hall and we'd sit outside. Like we'd literally be in the courtyard just waiting for her to get out of class. And it's like, thank God nothing happened to us. But there was one time my brother and I were outside and the teacher, I don't remember if he came outside for something or the teacher was in like earshot of us and my brother was being disrupted. And I was like,
Tony, stop that. You know that teacher doesn't like us.
And I think he heard. And I promise you, next lecture, it was like, oh, your kids can come sit inside, but you guys have to be quiet though. So I think me speaking up and saying that, let us sit inside the classroom instead of sitting in the courtyard. But that's a time I spoke up for myself. I used to be very outspoken when I was younger. And then I quieted. I went mute like my teenage years. And then I would kind of speak up for myself in college, but I also didn't really want confrontation. I'm dealing with so much. I don't need any beef. But I did speak up for myself one time. I had a roommate, 2 roommates, but one of the 2 did this. We got into the roommate situation because we were all kind of friends. We knew each other from the dorms. So we end up living together and something happens where this one roommate was not very fond of me and the other one, but more so me for whatever reason. And I remember I had ordered a pizza and she had other friends over. Friends who I knew because, you know, we were all in the dorms together before coming to this apartment. And so it was kind of mutuals, but it was like they're hanging out with her, so I'm just gonna retreat to my room, watch my little TV, and just chill out in my quarters. But I spoke up because at some point she was talking shit, okay? I ordered a pizza, the pizza came, pizza person knocked on the door while she was out there cooking with the other friends, and they're like, who is that? Like, who's at the door? And she's like, throwing a little bit of shade. She was like, I don't know who's at the door, but these people, like me and the other roommate, love to invite random people over to just be at the house. And I was like, let's not fake the funk. Let's not make it seem like we just have people running in and out of here. That's not the case. The other roommate, she did used to braid hair, so she had like 1 or 2 kind of random people, but it was during the daytime. We were usually in class when they were around. Like we all had kind of different schedules. It didn't need to be a thing is all I'm saying. I go out there and as I'm walking is when she says, I don't know, they just love to have people over. And I turn around and I was like, no, it's just the pizza man. It's not a random person. And I turn back around and I'm opening the door and she felt like me turning back around was like I said something under my breath. And she was like, you can say it to my face. You don't have to say it under your breath. Da, da, da. And she's at this point getting a little bit more rah-rah. And I was just there like, I just answered your question and saying that it's just a delivery guy. I need to pay him real quick and you can continue doing whatever you want to do. She took it as an insult or she took it as I don't know what, but long story short, it escalated and that evening she tried to fight me. But all that to say, that's the time that I spoke up for myself. Let's get the final question, you guys. Oh, this is such a good question to end this video on. How would you prepare your younger self for their first heartbreak? I'm pretty much the doctor of heartbreak. I have a PhD certified in everything heartbreak. I've experienced a fair share of heartbreaks, not just this past one, but like I've experienced heartbreak a lot. And I think about this question a lot, not for myself, but mainly for my nieces and nephews, because they are pretty much mine. Like I know my sister had them, but they're like my children. So I think about this type of question a lot of, you know, when they get old enough, like when will I tell them about, you know, my experiences and just advise them on life when it comes to heartbreak and stuff, because I've been through it. And also back to this question of what is difficult for me to forgive myself for. It took me a while to forgive myself for bringing the X-Pack around my kiddos and around my family. I was like, why did I allow this person to meet my mom, to meet my dad, to meet my nieces and nephew? Like why? What was I going through? Because honestly, I feel like during that relationship, I was very much in a void mentally. Like I didn't really deep how serious, you know, spending forever with somebody is. And so ties into this question because like I said, I think about the the day that I will finally tell them like in detail what happened. They're not there yet, but I would tell myself, first of all, your feelings are valid. Your emotions are valid. It's usually, you know, a feeling of sadness, an empty feeling, a lonely feeling, because now you don't have like a companion to do life with. It's a loss. I had a communications teacher. What was her name? I loved her so much. She was the type of teacher where she's like, if you're going through a breakup, tell me. You can take your final, you can take your midterm, you can take your quiz another day. Like, she's like, that is valid. That is a valid excuse for you to have to take your midterm on a different date, to turn in your homework later. Like, she's like, tell me about it. We can talk about it. Like, this thing happened, and then on top of that, you gotta study for a final. You know what I mean? So with that same practice, with that same idea, with that same mentality, I would tell my younger self that it is okay to put off other responsibilities and to deal with that heartbreak dead on. Don't spend a month in bed and never leave. You know what I mean? Like, still do stuff, but give yourself a time frame. I couldn't tell an exact number because a person like me, I'll cry about it for like an hour, then I'm on to the next thing. I'm like, okay, well, now it's glow up season. I gotta rebrand myself. This is my gym regimen. This is, you know, this is what we're doing next. This is what we're doing next. But then still with that mindset of what we're doing next, like, I'd still have lapses. I'd still have moments where I'm thinking about it and then I'll fall back down. And it's just like a constant cycle. Not saying that that's a bad thing, because honestly, the journey of life, that's what it is. We have peaks and valleys. You're good and bad, good and bad, good and bad throughout a break. But be okay with yourself at any state of that heartbreak. So when you're sad about it, let yourself be sad about it. If you need to cry in the shower, cry in the shower. If you want to take a whole day where you just binge Netflix and eat Chick-fil-A, do that. Like, you deserve it. You literally went through a heartbreak. Your heart is broken. Heal and give yourself time to heal, and don't feel bad about it. Sit in the feelings and to not avoid it. I would prepare my younger self for their first heartbreak also by talking to somebody. I thank God every day for my best friend. I'm not gonna cry. Let me take a sip of water. My best friend let me just speak to her candidly about the situation. She never judged me. She never looked at me like, girl, why are you going back? Girl, why do you feel this way? He did 1, 2, 3, X, Y, Z to you. Like, she never hit me with that. And that's why she's my best friend. And so just having that person or thing, because I also journaled as well, having that outlet to express your emotion to is also helpful as well. I would say it's beneficial for it to be an actual person, whether it's like a best friend or even like a therapist, just because you're getting another perspective coming back to you. Like, this is like, it's like a dialogue. That person will tell you things that you want to hear, like it's gonna be okay. Like, they can give you, you know, the hug, cry with you, just love on you when you're not feeling the love anymore from the heartbreak. So I do recommend consulting with another person, but also doing that inner work by journaling, by self-love, you know, like these cards. Heartbreak is just another facet of life, if you will. Heartbreak is something that, hey, we just go through and we get through, okay? Put yourself first. In that moment of heartbreak, don't think about the other, try not to think about the other person and what they're going through. Pour all that energy into you and then start taking steps towards healing. And that's how I would prepare my younger self for their first heartbreak. Yeah, I hope I covered all grounds with that one, because there's so many facets to it. One thing that I love too is just taking a shower, like cleansing. Like, after I've released by crying and getting in my feels, take a shower, you know? And imagine just the water is, you know, ridding you of all the negative emotion. And when you come out, just do something that you love. Distract yourself with something that you love. And I put distract in air quotes because you're not supposed to avoid the feeling. That's the thing. In order to get through it, you gotta get through it. Like, you gotta do it to get through it, if that makes sense. You can't avoid the emotions. You can't suppress. I would tell them to, I would advise my younger self to not get over heartbreak by getting with another person or jumping into a new relationship, because it's not going to allow you to reflect on what went wrong or what led to that heartbreak. You know, honestly, low-key, you're still in the vibration of that previous trauma, so you're gonna attract the trauma again. You need to dispel of that trauma so you don't attract it again. So I hope that made sense. Like, you really need to take time to heal, cleanse yourself of the past, whatever happened to lead to the heartbreak, so that the next love is a good love, it's a forever love. It's a love that won't lead to a heartbreak. So do the work. Hashtag do the work. But yeah, y'all, that is all 10 questions. I hope that all these were thorough. I hope that I answered these with depth, okay? I hope that all of my answers made sense, and I hope that they inspire you to do the work as well, and for you to tap into your self-love. And if you don't need it for healing, just do it because you want to get to know yourself better. You know what I mean? Like, nobody is gonna know you better than you. What does RuPaul say? If you don't love yourself, how the hell you gonna love somebody else? Amen. Amen. Okay. And with that was part 1 of self-love. Comment down below your answers to any of these questions if you feel like you want to share. Like this video if you're into it, and subscribe to my channel for more, because there is definitely going to be a part 2 and a part 3. And I will see y'all in the next one.